before you explore these exercises for the glutes, for the outer hips, take some time to mobilize the center of the body, working through the arch and curl, working through the side body, then bring your attention down into the hips. When you're ready, come into a modified child's position. The knees be hip-width distance apart, and find a place where you can let your hips sit back towards your heels in a comfortable way. We'll be exploring coming from this child's position towards basically a tabletop position and feeling into how that movement can happen both from the front line of the body, from the thighs and from the belly, and from the back line of the body, from the glutes, from the muscles of the low back, from the upper hamstrings. So we'll start by seeing if we can find that connection into the front of the body. Again, we'll be lifting up towards a tabletop position. See if you can lift up by pressing your toenails down into the mat and engaging through the front of the thighs and the belly. Let your arms be support here. You might come to your hands, you might only come to your elbows. But see if you can lift up by pressing the toes down and contracting through the front of the thighs. And then slowly let that effort go. And feel how, as you release your hips back down, that long chain across the front of the thighs lengthens and softens. Try that action a couple of times. Press the toes down. You'll feel your back want to round here as the front of the thighs and the belly engage to lift you up. And then release from that same line to slowly lower yourself back down. So we'll do that twice more. Press down with the toes. Feel how the front of the thighs, the belly contracts. And now as you come up, start to use your hands like brakes for a little resistance. Press a little bit with your hands so you're opposing your ability to rise up. And you should feel a little more contraction in the muscles that are doing this work in the belly and the front of the thighs. And then keep the press with your hands and slowly let that contraction go. And imagine as you release, the tops of the front of the thighs getting longer so that you're really softening way, way back through the sitting bones. Let's do that one more time. Press down with the toes. As you start to rise up, feel how the front of the thighs and the belly engage. Again, as you come partway up, resist with your hands. Let this help your mind to be clear. Where is the work happening that wants to move you forward towards table? And then keep the press constant with the arms and start to slowly lower the weight of the hips back down by releasing that effort little by little by little by little until you've come all the way down to rest. And as you get there, take a moment just being soft. If child's pose is a comfortable position, that can be there. But of course, you could always lay down on your belly or on your back if you need to take a break from this shape. So now that we found the front line from the thighs up into the belly, let's see if we can find the back line from the glutes up into the low back. And because we'll be moving to the same shape, sometimes it can be very difficult to differentiate between these two. In the front body, we pressed the toes down and engaged up into the belly to lift up. Here, we're going to focus on reaching the toes towards the back of the mat and pressing the knees backwards to start to lift up from the contraction of the glutes and the back body. So when you feel ready, start to explore that action. See if you can reach your toes back behind you, and then start to press your knees back behind you. And see if you can start to feel how you're lifting up from your glutes, and your back should come into a little bit of an arch here so that you're not engaging with the belly and the thighs. Then lower yourself back down. And of course, as you're lowering down, notice how you're letting go, softening and lengthening through this posterior chain from the low back down into the upper part of the hamstrings. Try that a couple of times. This can often be the more challenging place to feel.
Reach the toes and the knees back behind you. Think about lifting yourself up from your glutes. Feel the contraction. Make sure you're not engaging with the belly. And then slowly release that effort coming back down. I've been noticing in my own practice that one of the keys for me is what I do with the toes. So if you notice you're pressing your toenails down into the mat, you're probably using the front of the thighs and the belly. Give it 2 more times before you add resistance. Reach the toes, the knees back behind you, as if you were going to extend the legs all the way back in space. And because the floor is in the way, that's going to move you up towards table, since the legs themselves can't change their position. And then release that effort little by little, lowering yourself back down. Starting to add in a little resistance. When you're ready, reaching the toes towards the back of the mat, pushing the knees back behind you to come up. Start to add resistance with the hands. So you're not trying to do more work, but you're trying to help your brain be really clear by stopping the movement. Feel how you're opposing, meeting and matching the effort in the legs and the effort in the arms. And then start to slowly release, softening from the glutes, lengthening through the back, letting the weight of the hips come down. At a certain point, you'll notice you're not really pressing with the arms anymore, but you are still opposing gravity when you come down really slowly. So try that twice more. Reach back with the toes, reach back with the knees. As you come up, stop your forward movement. See if you can keep visualizing and pressing the knees back behind you. And then start to slowly let that go. Again, we're trying to help our minds learn about releasing from the muscles. We want to go slowly and always move within a range that feels comfortable and not like it's moving into pain. Try it one more time. Reach the toes towards the back. Press the knees back behind you. So you can come up from the back body. Again, getting clear, resisting with the hands. Maybe try doing less. Can you make the effort softer, but be more clear? And then releasing from the back body to come back down. Release in tiny, tiny little steps. Every time you pause, notice how you can feel what's holding you in that shape. So you can release from those places as you come all the way down to rest. And as you come out from this final cycle, notice the relationship between the heels and the sitting bones. Have they gotten a little closer towards one another? Is the back a little softer? And maybe especially, is your mind a little more capable of feeling into the glutes and knowing where they are, that they exist, that they're alive? So we're going to try 2 more slightly different lines through the glutes and the outer hips. For this next one, we're going to start by coming up towards a tabletop position. And we're going to take the knees a little bit over towards the left and the upper body a little over towards the right. So we're describing a diagonal line between our knees and our hands. And we're going to try to travel along this diagonal line by finding the outer edge of that left hip. And we're going to try to find it by pressing the left knee towards the left and towards the back of the mat. So we'll start by letting the hips sink a little bit back in the direction of the knees so that there's length across this outer side of the hip. Now see if you can press that left knee towards the left and towards the back on a diagonal. You should feel contraction come into the outer hip. Let that lift you up, moving your heart towards your hands. And then release. And as you release, slowly lower your hips along that diagonal towards the back and towards the left. So we'll take that line a couple of times. Watch that you aren't contracting, again, from the front of that right thigh. See if you can figure out how to lift up by pressing the left knee left and back. So it's moving on a diagonal towards the back left corner of the mat as you come up. Add a little resistance with your hands if you'd like. And then keep the effort constant with the hands and release from the hip to lower the weight of your lower body back down along that diagonal. So we'll try that twice more. Press that left knee diagonally towards the left back corner. You can add pressing the right knee towards the left back corner as well. Just make sure you're really feeling it across the outer edge of the left hip. And then slowly let that go. And you might notice that as you let go, each time the outer edge of that left hip is coming a little bit closer towards the floor and a little wider towards the left. Give yourself one more cycle. Left knee presses diagonally back behind you. Maybe the right knee joins it. Feel the outer hip engage, maybe add resistance, maybe do a little less. And see if you can meet and match with a little more subtlety. And then slowly let the hips sink back along that diagonal. See if you can feel how that outer edge of the hip is lengthening and broadening as you let the hips come down. Again, we're not aiming to find a stretch. We're aiming to feel a sense of contraction and release of contraction. And then as you're ready, bring yourself back to center so that you're in a neutral child's position. And notice how things feel on the left. Maybe a little like you're on a hill even, where that left side is lower down, the right side is higher up. Just notice, what's the relationship between the heel and the sitting bone? What's the quality of your awareness, your ability to feel into that left hip? And then let's try that same action and same diagonal on the right. So coming to table, let the knees come a little over towards the right. Hands come a little over towards the left. If your knees are uncomfortable on the floor, you can always place some extra padding there. Make sure you feel comfortable. So again, take a moment just to explore that diagonal. Let your heart come forward towards your hands. Let your hips move back diagonally towards the right back corner of the mat. Just feeling, what is this movement like? And then starting a little bit lifted, so not all the way up like a tabletop position and not way, way down towards the mat. See if you can start to bring your chest more towards your hands by pressing the right knee to the right and diagonally back behind you. Let that engage you through the outer right hip as you come up, sending your heart towards your hands. And then slowly let that go. As you let that go, and you're letting the hips sink back along that diagonal towards that right back corner of the mat. Try that a couple of times. Right knee presses diagonally back behind you. Again, watch what happens with the feet. If you feel your toes click down, it's a good indication that you're using the front of the body rather than the outer hip and back body. And then release from the outer hip, lowering the hips back along that diagonal, letting that outer line of the hip, outer space of the glutes soften. Give yourself 2 more cycles. Right knee presses diagonally back behind you. This time maybe add a little resistance with the hands, stopping your forward movement, feeling a little more deeply into that work. Doesn't need to be more effort. You can do less, but let it be clearer. And then keep the press of the hands constant. Focus on releasing the contraction from the outer hip, sinking the hips backwards along that diagonal as you let go. One more time here. Press the knees diagonally back behind you. Again, maybe do a little less. See if you can find a subtler place where you match the effort of the hip and the effort of the hands in a way that lets your mind be clear of the contraction in the right hip. so that you can also feel the release of that contraction in the right hip. And as you release, see if you can soften. You're not trying to force yourself backwards. You're trying to release the hips back down towards that back corner. And you'll notice as you come down, this hip is rotating towards the floor. And as you finish, you can come back to a more neutral child's position with the hands, the head, the knees in line with one another. Take a moment just to feel into that space of the glutes and the outer hips. So we'll try one more line across both the right and the left hip. And that's going to be more just across the outer hip. So now the movement of the hips is going to be back up towards center from either the right or the left. And let's start with the hips a little over towards the right. So let basically your shins rock on the floor. You're rotating the legs here so that that right hip comes a little wide towards the right. And now to come back up to center, see if you can press the right knee towards the right. You're trying to lift from the outer part of the right hip. And then slowly lower the weight of the hips back over towards the right. We'll try that a couple of times. Press the right knee out towards the right to lift up. And release from the outer hip, really slowly here. Controlling how you lower the weight of your hips towards the back. Letting the right hip come wide again. One more time. As you press out, you're externally moving the leg, but instead of the leg moving, the hips are moving because the floor is in the way. And as you release that contraction, you're letting that leg come more into an internal rotation from the hip. Come back to center. Take a moment, of course, just to notice and to feel. And then we'll try the left hip. So again, you'll start by letting your hips rock over towards the left. So both legs are rotating here in this position. Focus is, of course, going to be on the left hip. Now see if you can press the left knee towards the left to lift your hips back up to center. You should feel the outer edge of the left hip contract. And then slowly release that contraction and let the left hip sink towards the left again. So we'll try that for a couple of cycles. Left knee presses left to lift you up. And then release to lower yourself back down. Or you can think about simply the glutes contracting on that side to lift you. Maybe that's the access point that's easier for you, lifting up by engaging across the left hip and lowering down by releasing. Again, that same space across the outer edge of the hip. One more time here on the left. Press the knee to the left. Engage through the outer hip and outer thigh to bring the hips towards center. And then release that line to let the hips lower back over towards the left. And again, as you finish, bring yourself back to center and take a moment just to rest. Feeling into both the right and the left sides, noticing what the quality of the energy through the hips, your awareness in your hips might be. And then finishing connecting into the backs of the legs. Come all the way down onto your belly. As you come down, set yourself up so that you're comfortable in the upper body. You could make a pillow with your hands. You could rest your head on a pillow, whatever's comfortable for you. Our focus is going to be on feeling into the backs of the legs and the connection of the back of the leg up into, again, the glutes and the low back. So once you've found a comfortable place, we'll start with the right side. Left leg is just going to be soft, relaxed against the floor. And moving really slowly, start to bend your bend your right knee by contracting the hamstrings. So we're engaging at the back of the leg. You should feel contraction through the back of the thigh. And then slowly lower the weight of that foot and shin back down releasing that contraction from the hamstring. So we'll do that a couple of times. As you lift, feel the back of the leg contract as best you can. Let the lower leg just be a weight that the upper back of the thigh muscles, the hamstrings, are lifting and lowering, releasing that contraction little by little by little. See if your mind can really feel this movement of contraction in the back of the leg, lifting, feeling the back of the leg contract, asking it consciously to engage, and then releasing. One more cycle. And you want your mind to really feel like it can bring its attention into the hamstrings here. Slowly letting that go. And then we're going to connect that bent knee shape into the front body and into the back body. So to begin, again, bend the knee. Let the hamstring contract to lift the foot and the shin. Now, we're going to start to feel some contraction through the front of the thigh up into the low belly by pressing that right knee down into the mat. As it presses down, because the floor is in the way, pulling the thigh towards the belly is going to lift the hip. And you should feel, and you can bring a hand there to check if you like, that the front of the thigh and the belly are coming into contraction. And then slowly let that go. And as you let go, make sure you're letting the front of the thigh come all the way down so that you're really releasing the hip flexors, the muscles that flex the hip, bring the thigh closer towards you. And then slowly let the foot and the shin come all the way down. So we'll try that twice more. First, bend the knee, finding the hamstrings. And then as if you were going to go into child's pose, pull that knee into the floor. Find that place where you're closing the front of the hip. It's going to lift your belly because that's the only way the thigh can come closer towards you. And then slowly release. Make sure you're really letting the leg get heavy in the upper thigh, and then let the foot and the shin come down. Give that one more cycle. First the knee bends. Then pull the knee into the floor. Close the front of the hip. Again, let it be conscious. See if you can do less on the left side. And then slowly release. You're letting the vertebrae right at the base of your rib cage and the front of your thigh soften apart as you do that. And then let the foot and the shin come down. Take a moment just to rest. If you like, bring your feet together. Notice how much longer the right leg is now than the left one. And then we'll finish on the right side by connecting from the back of the thigh up into the back. So that's gonna take the right thigh up away from the mat. So first we'll bend the knee, same action. Now, thinking about pressing your belly down, not the left thigh, the belly. Let your belly press down and start to engage through your glutes to lift your thigh up away from the mat. If it's easy to let the thigh come up, think about pressing your low belly towards the mat like you were coming into a scorpion kind of pose, feeling the back arch. And then slowly release. And as you release, let the thigh come down, let the knee get heavy, and you'll feel a change through the glutes and the top of the thigh. And then let the foot and the shin come down. So let's try that twice more. The knee will bend. And then again, pressing with your belly, start to lift that right thigh up. Maybe you engage a little more through the glute and the back. Again, it doesn't matter how large the shape is. It only matters that you can feel it consciously. And slowly let go. Again, the thigh gets heavy, the knee gets heavy, and then the foot and the shin come down. One final time here. Maybe this time you make it smaller. Knee bends. See if you can really feel the belly press. Can you get your mind conscious of what's happening through the glutes so that you can also release through that space. Notice how as you soften with the glutes, it's actually the inner groin and the low belly that melt away from the mat. And then let the foot and the shin come down. When we carry a lot of tension in the glutes, we tend to press forward into the inner thighs. You can take a moment just to rest here. If you'd like, you can check in again with the length of the leg. Just getting a comparison here between the right side and the left. And then bringing your attention over into the left side, we'll try those same movements there. Start to slowly bend the left knee. Again, we'll start just by activating and bringing awareness to the hamstrings. And slowly lower the foot and the shin back down again. So we'll try that for another 3 or 4 cycles. See if you can feel how the hamstrings contract to lift the weight of the foot and the shin. And then release from the hamstrings, letting the space at the back of the knee get long as you let the foot and the shin come down. Give yourself 2 more cycles here. Notice how the action of the hamstring is like a pulley. As it contracts, as it bends the knee, it lifts the weight of the foot and the shins. And as it releases, that weight comes down. Give yourself 1 more cycle. Take a moment just to rest. You can always check in with the length of the legs. For me, my right side is still a little longer. We still have 2 more movement patterns to try on this side before things will come back probably into balance. Next, we'll add pulling that left knee towards the mat. So that's going to close the front of the hip. We'll start by bending the knee, finding the hamstrings. Now start to press your knee down into the floor and imagine pulling your left thigh up to meet your belly. And again, if you want, you can touch with your hand. You should feel that the space at the front of the hip is closing, the thigh is coming towards the belly, and those muscles should be in contraction. And then let that go. And as you let that go, make sure you let the front of the thigh and the pointy part of the hip come down as much as you can. And release the foot and the shin. As you do that, try to resist pressing them down, right? We're trying to release in the front body. We'll try that twice more. First, the knee will bend, finding the hamstrings. Then pull the knee down into the mat. As you pull your knee towards your belly, feel how the hips lift up. Notice how the front body comes into contraction. And then slowly release. And once you've let the thigh come down, then let the foot and the shin come down. 1 more time here. Left knee bends. Left knee pulls down into the mat. Again, we're trying to engage what flexes the hip here. It's going to move the hips up. And then slowly let that go. And keep the knee bent as you release from the front of the hip. And then release from the back of the thigh. Let the foot and the shin come down. And you can take a moment just checking in, noticing what's the relationship between the sides now. What's the quality on the left? And then finally working into that back line from the back of the thigh up into the glutes and the low back. As you're ready, bend the left knee, feeling the hamstrings contract. Now again, the focus here is on feeling the belly press down in the back arch, not trying to lift the leg by pressing with the right thigh. So let the right leg be soft. See if you can breathe into your belly. Press the belly down and engage through the glutes to see if you can lift that left leg up. You should feel your back arch. And then slowly let that go. Again, thigh gets heavy, knee gets heavy. So you're really letting go through the glutes and the other hip muscles, and then release from the hamstring to let the foot and the shin come down. Let's do that twice more. Knee bends, hamstrings come into contraction, Now, the back and the glutes coming into contraction is going to arch the back. Let your pelvis tip so that the sitting bones are moving up towards the sky. Belly is pressing down into the mat like a scorpion pose. And then release from your back, from the glutes, letting the thigh come down, letting the knee get heavy, going really slow here. And then lower the foot and the shin. One more time, let the knee bend, find the hamstrings. Start to engage up into the glutes, into the back. Let the belly press down as the leg lifts up. Find a place where you can feel a gentle amount of contraction here. Belly is long, front body is soft, and then slowly let that contraction go. Again, thigh gets heavy, knee gets heavy, and finally, foot and the shin comes all the way down. Take a moment just to rest. Again, adjusting the position of your head at any time if you need to. Checking in with the length of the legs. Might have come back more into balance with one another. And then from your belly, come onto your back. And give yourself a moment or two just resting on the back. Again, noticing how things feel. If your body feels like it needs any counter poses, rocking through the hips, letting that just be a gentle rotation of the pelvis and the spine, or even doing a little arching and curling. Making sure there weren't extra places that helped out in that work. It's really easy to over effort in those movements. So softening any extra effort that maybe slipped in unconsciously. Giving yourself at least a couple of cycles of breathing just to rest and to feel, giving your brain a chance to process that work.